My name is Sherry Balfiore. I'm from the Detroit area. We were having a very difficult time connecting with the buyers. We have almost 70 agents in our office at this point. And when I started with Favorite Agent, we had about 45. So we're talking about a 2-month period of time. We have 150 transactions. Some are pending. Now some are getting ready to close. And that's 150 transactions out of the productivity because of Favorite Agent. I know it's been a long time since I've been so busy I didn't know what I was doing.
Hi, my name is Matt Jones, and I'm the President and CEO of FavoriteAgent.com. In the previous session, we talked about becoming the very best agent for the job. I mentioned the importance of learning your market statistics and told you exactly how to do that. I discussed how you could increase your credibility and power by arming yourself with some very specific knowledge. Now, I'll assume that you've done your homework now and you're ready to learn the actual listing presentation that made me one of the top listing agents in the country. I want you to notice that I haven't referred to myself as one of the smartest agents in the country, because there are plenty of agents who are smarter than me. I haven't claimed that I'm the hardest working agent in the country, because there are lots of hard working agents. But I do maintain that I'm one of the top listing agents because there are very, very few agents who've listed as many homes in a single year as I have, and even fewer who have listed all of their homes for 8% or more. And there are even fewer yet who have netted their clients 2.7% more money or more at closing while selling their homes twice as fast as most of the agents in their market. So how do I do it? I use a unique system that I call the traffic approach. In a few minutes, we'll get into this approach to listing, but first we need to examine how I go about doing a CMA, or a comparative market analysis. Now, anyone who knows numbers can tell you that as a listing agent, using the traditional method of doing a CMA, you can make the numbers say about anything you want. Here's what I mean. With the traditional CMA method, the agent selects 3 recently sold properties that closely represent the subject home or the home being valued. In most markets, it's easy to find 3 properties that sold high, 3 that sold average, and 3 that sold low, and still have many other comparables from which to choose. What many agents do and what they teach is to use the least expensive set of comps for the CMA. This method makes the case for listing the home as inexpensively as possible and allows it to sell quickly. However, as a seller's agent, you should be getting your client the most money for his property, not co-conspiring in a giveaway. What I do in preparing a CMA is to take data from 3 sources: tax records, the sale and assessment data, the closed comparable listings in the MLS, and the active comparable listings in the MLS. Now let me explain. First, I look at the tax records to determine what I feel to be the adjusted current value of the home. For example, if it sold 3 years ago for $150,000 and there's been an appreciation rate in that area of 12 to 14% a year, I calculate the appreciation. 3 times 13%, that gives me 39%, or $58,500. And then I add that figure to the purchase price. If the home hasn't been on the market for a long time, I'll use the most recent assessed value and adjust it the same way. Certainly, this particular method is rather subjective, but an experienced agent who knows his market can get close to a reasonable number by using it. However, this is only one part of my valuation. Next, I pull up all the closed comparables in the area or subdivision going back a reasonable period of time, and I can usually find between 10 and 20 of these. In extremely hot markets where homes appreciated double-digit rates, you shouldn't go back further than a few months or so in order to prevent the CMA from being skewed downward. Don't forget that the amenities and how nice a home looks will affect the curb appeal and the saleability of the property, but have very little impact on the appraised value. So it's best to use as many comparables as possible. Now, in selecting my comps, I use the subdivision, the square footage, with a range of plus or minus 10%, and the number of bedrooms and baths. I then calculate the average sale price of the group, eliminating any outliers, up or down. In other words, I eliminate homes that were foreclosures or distress sales. Finally, I pull up all the active comparable listings. Again, I use the subdivision, the square footage, and the number of bedrooms and baths. But your market may be a little different in how appraisers select comps. The point is to get as much data as possible. Now we put it all together. Take the adjusted value from the tax records, add the average price from the closed comps, and add the average price from the active comps. Now take that number and divide by 3. And you'll have the true average value for the subject property. Write down this new number somewhere, add and subtract 5% from it, and you'll have a reasonable range for the value of the home, which tends to be plus or minus 5% from the average. In most markets, it's reasonably easy to support a value within 5%, so once the property sells, getting the appraisal shouldn't be an issue. I know this is an out-of-the-box way of doing a CMA, but it'll absolutely stand any amount of scrutiny by clients, other agents, or most importantly, appraisers. Moreover, using this method will protect you from accidentally overpricing or underpricing a property. Most significantly, it will reinforce the fact that you're a market authority and you know what you're talking about. If a seller client should be harboring a suspicion that you're trying to skew the numbers, his or her fears will quickly be allayed because you've considered every possible comparable in the current value of the home. Nothing except pre-appraisal could be fairer. Okay, that does it for this session. In the next session, we'll take the pieces and put them together into a lethal listing presentation.